So tonight we're going to go over chapter 4, determining our menu prices and different methods that we can do that, different ways we can do that. So my first is, why do our menu prices matter? Why does it matter what we charge for our menu items? Because what? We want to make money. Right? It's going to cost us a certain amount of money to make those in the ingredients to make those products. And so what we sell it for is going to determine how much profit we're going to end up with. Okay? Why else does it matter what our menu price is, what we charge for our menu items? Based on location. Can you give me an example? Yeah, absolutely. So I recently had an opportunity to, a couple of years ago, that's recent, a couple of years ago, my friend Sarah invited me to come to the Weston Riverwalk to kind of take a tour of all the meeting space, and we had breakfast at Zoka, which is their restaurant on the Riverwalk level. And she's like, enjoy what you want. And so I had the breakfast tacos, $12.95 for 2 breakfast tacos. Right? And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, $12.95. But those breakfast tacos, then what do they have? They have like eggs, chorizo, bacon, potatoes, and then they have like guacamole and salsa, sour cream all on the side. So it's $12.95.
That's the way it comes.
That's the way it comes. Yeah, you don't have to say, oh, I only want this. No, that's what you get. And I mean, you can adjust it if you want to, but you're still paying $12.95. So all of that in 2 breakfast tacos. And so it's a lot of food, but it's also because we're on the Riverwalk. If I went somewhere else, if I went to Bill Miller's and got a breakfast taco with chorizo, eggs, bacon, potatoes in it, it's probably not going to cost $12.95 for 2 tacos. Okay. It might.
Right, yeah.
Bill Miller's has some pretty expensive tacos.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But their potatoes are so good. That peppery hash brown potato.
Yes.
So good. I know, but they're so good.
I remember the steak I argued with the ladies, like, no, I want the hash browns. I don't want potatoes. I want hash browns. It's like, these potatoes here. Like, oh, man.
So why else do prices matter?
Would it be like food costs or like how much food? All the things we've
Yeah, so pretty much anything that we've talked about up to this point, this all has to determine, like we've talked about controlling our costs from our perspective, but now we have to charge the appropriate amount to cover our costs. You see those restaurants that have like 3 tacos for $3, right? $1 for tacos. Like, how do they make any money at $3 for 3 tacos?
You'd be surprised.
Well, typically you get in there, and it's a $5 minimum for their credit card charges. So if you don't have cash, now you got to add a soda or 2 to make sure that you can get up to that $5 minimum. And they're making a lot of money on those sodas. The profit margin is high on the sodas. Or there's, let's all agree, we know that the tortilla can make or break a taco. So if you go in there and have breakfast tacos and they have amazing tortillas, and the next time you're thinking about lunch, you're like, oh my gosh, those tortillas are amazing. Let me go have lunch at this place. So that taco kind of gets you in the door, and you see what the quality is, and then you go back later to eat lunch. And of course, the lunch prices are much higher, and the profit margin is much greater for the restaurant. Okay, so there's lots of different ways that we can. So we have some external factors, and we have some internal factors. So external, what does that mean?
Not in the facility.
Not in our facility. It's out of our control. We cannot control these external factors. Okay. So these major external factors, the first one is market-driven pricing. And this kind of goes along with what Isaiah was just saying about, if you have a Mexican enchilada plate on the Riverwalk versus going to Alamo Cafe out on I-10 or 281, you're going to pay a little bit different. But more specifically, just kidding, erase what I just said. Demand-driven pricing is what we're talking about in that case, okay? No, just kidding. Market-driven pricing is the Riverwalk. That's the location, what everybody around you is charging, okay? Somebody around you might go ahead and discount their price so much that guests that are not loyal to you, they're not brand loyal, they may go somewhere just because it has cheaper prices. So we can't control what our competitors charge. We can't go to our competitors and say, hey, I saw that you lowered your enchilada plate to $10. I'm charging $15. Can you bump yours back up to 12 so we're not that much different? We can't do that, okay? Demand-driven pricing is where we have no choice. If we want something in a particular location, we have to get it there. We cannot leave. What's an example of a place where you're going to eat something, you're going to pay a higher price because you can't leave?
Resort.
What's that?
Resort.
Yes and no. Resorts, possibly. I'm thinking of like.
Because the resorts want you to stay on their property.
Well, no, they definitely do want you to stay, but you still have the option to leave if you want to.
Yeah.
Okay. So think about. What's that?
Kids to Texas.
Cruises is pretty much all inclusive. Okay.
SeaWorld, Kids to Texas.
Amusement parks, right? I mean, technically you could leave an amusement park if you wanted to, but you have to come back in. It's really kind of inconvenient, so you might as well just go ahead and pay what's there. What else? Yeah, so if you want to eat room service and you don't want to leave your room, you're going to pay a higher price for that. A movie theater. We're on the right track now. Okay, if I want to eat popcorn, I can't bring popcorn in and I can't go somewhere else and get it. I've got to get it right there. Okay, say it again. Yeah, so any kind of like attraction or entertainment, think about the AT&T Center. If I want to eat Whataburger, am I going to pay the same for a Whataburger at AT&T Center as I am at my local Whataburger neighborhood place? No, if I want to eat Pizza Hut while I'm watching the Spurs game, I have to pay that higher cost because I can't leave. So that's the concept of demand-driven pricing. Okay? Same thing with the airport. If I want to eat something at the airport, I can't leave security once I've gone through security. Otherwise, I have to go back through security and I may miss my flight. So that's why demand-driven pricing sometimes is higher than what we normally would see elsewhere. Okay? AT&T Center Whataburger, up until 2 o'clock every day, you can go and it's regular Whataburger menu pricing. And then after 2 o'clock, they close it. And then as soon as game day starts or rodeo starts, then it goes to event pricing. Price-value relationship is external from the the guest's perspective. If the guest does not see a value in the price that they are paying, if they don't see a relationship between the amount of money they're paying and the value that they're getting, they're not going to pay that. You may have the most amazing chicken fried steak, but if you're charging $30 for your chicken fried steak, the guests probably aren't going to see they're probably not going to see the relationship in the price and the value that they're going to get. Okay? So you have to kind of see, you have to make sure that sometimes your guests may stop ordering things because they're priced too high. And then the markup differentiation, oops, just kidding. There we go. The markup differentiation just basically means this differentiation. What's the root word of differentiation? Different, okay? Basically means that we have to mark up different categories a different way. I cannot simply mark everything up 30%. I cannot simply mark up everything 10%, okay? But those higher ticket items, the higher cost items, like our steaks, our proteins, things like that, we're gonna have a little bit smaller of a markup because they are so expensive, the cost is so expensive. But what's our least expensive thing to produce in the restaurant? Beverages, typically. So we have a really high markup on beverages, okay? So if you look right here, this is kind of confusing. Our markup is 90%, which means our beverage cost percentage is 10%. Does that make sense? So our markup is 90, that means our cost percentage, you know our triangle? Our cost percentage is 10% if our markup is 90%. Okay? Does that make sense?
What does it cost to make soda?
Sorry again?
What does it cost to make soda again?
Anywhere from a nickel to a dime.
So that's why it's 10%.
That's why it's 90% markup, because we're going to make a lot of money off of that. Okay? Our steak that costs us $35, we can't make that 10%. That means we're going to charge $350 for our steak. But our soda, we can. So this markup differentiation This means that our different categories have different varieties, different ranges of our markups. At the end of the day, the overall food cost percentage we're aiming for is what?
At least
30 to 33%. That's our average we're aiming for. If we can be below 30% and still maintain good quality, even better. Okay? Questions about those four? All right, our internal factors are our cost, which are the recipes that we produce, and our portion size. Okay? We can control that. If our recipe costs too much, what can we do?
substitute.
We can look for ways to substitute those higher cost ingredients for something that's the same quality or similar quality, but maybe a little bit lower cost. Good. We can revise our recipes. We can take things off of our menu if it costs us a lot of money to produce and nobody's buying it, which we're going to talk about before our break tonight. The other thing is our portion size. So we can control portion size. Let's say 50, let's say 40. Let's use 40 as our example. Okay? 40 servings cost us, let's say $40, just to keep it simple. Okay? So our recipe, total recipe costs us $40. Let's make it 80 just to be fun. Okay? Keep it simple. 80. And we get 40 servings out of that. What is my cost per serving? $2. Remember, cost per serving. Okay, so we take our $80, bless you, divided by 40 servings, and we get $2 per serving. Okay, $2 per serving. That looks really messy, I'm sorry. I need to sit down, otherwise I can't, if I don't have my angle just right, my writing doesn't look as great. Okay. I know. I'm gonna do a different color just so it stands out. $2 per serving. Okay? So what happens if we realize that our serving, let's say our serving, we want to decrease our serving, and now we can actually get 50 servings out of the same $80 recipe. So now we do our $80 divided by 50, and what do we get? $1.60. That means for every serving that we serve, we can save 40 cents. As long as the guests still have that price-value relationship. If we decrease the serving so small that the guests no longer want to pay that amount of money, then we're gonna run into some issues. So we want to always maintain that level of that quality. And let's say it's a brand new menu item, and we decrease it by a little bit so that we can get 50 servings instead of 40 servings. People may not recognize the slight difference. Okay.
Like if you want fajita meat on some type of entree, so if you went from like 8 ounces to 6 ounces.
Exactly, 8 ounces of fajita meat to 6 ounces. They may not recognize that difference, but if it's a longtime favorite recipe that you've had since you've opened the restaurant and you decrease that portion, people are probably going to notice. Okay, it's interesting because how many of y'all are in the Chef 1301 class, 1300 class? No, Chef 1300, the professional cooking dining room service class. Okay. How many of y'all are in the Thursday night class? Anybody Thursday night? What about Friday lunch? Anybody in the Friday lunch class? Okay. So the Thursday night class, y'all had last week, I think y'all had six ounce chicken breasts that were butterfly, right? So when I ate on Thursday night, it looked like there was 2 chicken breasts, although it was 1 breast that was butterfly. On Friday, they tried a 4 ounce chicken breast, but it was just 1 chicken breast. And so on the plate, on the presentation, on Thursday night, I saw 2 chicken breasts, even though it was just 1. And then on Friday, I saw 1 chicken breast. And I was like, I'm getting gypped. I'm not getting my 2 chicken breasts, right? Now, it doesn't matter to me. I like the food regardless. But, and actually, I thought that the 4 ounces was even perfect because I didn't feel too stuffed. I was amazed at the difference of 2 ounces of protein can make. But that can save a whole lot of cost. And that's what they're trying to do. They were looking at 2 different products, 2 different types of chicken, and which one are we going to order in the future? So can we get away with a 4-ounce chicken breast? Or do we have to have a 6-ounce? Those are the things you want to think about as an owner of your restaurant. When Manuel said about substitutions. Okay, so establishing our food and beverage costs, the one way we can do it is by percentage. We know that with our triangle. You can take the cost of your ingredients and you can apply what your desired percentage is. Okay, remember based on the level of, or based on the cost of the ingredients, you might have to be higher than 33 or you can be lower than. But that's the one way, is using your food cost percentage, okay? The other one is our factor method. Do you always have a calculator on you?
Yes.
Well, your phones, that's true, we do today. Yes, that's true. Is your phone always charged?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, some of us do. Okay, some of us aren't. Sometimes our phones die. But this factor method is super easy. Okay, so basically what this is saying is we take 100, okay? We take 100 and we divide by our desired percentage. Okay, so let's use 20% as our example. Okay, so if I divide by my desired percentage, what's 100 divided by 20? 5. 5 is my factor. That means if my recipe cost me $2, I multiply by 5, I should sell it for $10. And if I sell it for $10, it's going to give me a 20% food cost. That's a lot easier than trying to figure out $2 divided by 20% is going to give you 10. So this is a way that you can absolutely just kind of just multiply. What is 100 divided by 33.3%? 3. 33.3 is a third, and so 3 is the factor. So most times you'll hear chefs just say, whatever it costs you, multiply it by 3, and that's what you should sell it for. They're using the factor method. It cost me $2, multiply it by 3, sell it for 6. That's the simple way of using the factor method. Now let's say you multiply it by 3, you get 6, but you're like, you know what, I think people might pay $10 for this. Then charge $10 for it. If there's that price value relationship and people would pay that still, if you charge $10 for that same item, you're going to have a much better food cost percentage. Okay? So just because the math tells you, oh, the math says I have to charge $6 for this, does not mean you have to charge $6. It's just that's a good starting point to make sure that you're at your 30% food cost, 33% food cost. Now, some of these get a little tricky. 28% food cost is 3.57 is your factor. So you would still need a calculator. You can't multiply. I mean, if you can, great, good on you. I can't. I can't multiply 2 times 3.57 in my head. I would still need a calculator for that. So this factor method works great for when you have a whole number, like 30%, 40%, 2.5. That's what our factor method is. Okay? Any questions about factor method? No? Okay. Q factor. So Q factor, there's 2 different ways to calculate Q factor. One that's not up here on the board. One is just, it's a flat charge. And it covers all your incidental spices and things like that, okay? So sometimes in a recipe, you'll just see like Q factor $1, and that's going to cover your salt, your pepper, whatever. Those are those incidental seasonings. Some recipes you might just see salt is 10 cents, pepper is 10 cents, where typically it's only about a penny, depending on how much you're preparing. So Q factor, it can be just a flat charge. It can be a percentage of the recipe, or it can just be a flat $1, $2, whatever. And that $2 just essentially just adds to the cost, because you may cost out salt in the recipe, but then the day of, something's not right and you gotta add more salt. You have to take into account those extra ingredients. If you don't, you're losing money. Salt is about a penny per teaspoon. And think about how much salt we use in a kitchen. And we're open 365 days a year. Those pennies add up, okay? And so that's one way you can calculate your Q factor. The other way to think about Q factor is all the complementary things that you get with something. So this example up here on the board, so if I sell beef brisket, I'm gonna sell barbecue sauce with it, right? But also, I'm gonna sell bread, starch, vegetable, dinner salad, salad dressing, butter, and all the condiments. Which in Texas, we know condiments to be jalapenos, onions, pickles, okay? So that's what all of this Q factor means. So it doesn't matter, this Q factor is 343. And so I don't have to add these up every single time. If somebody does brisket, or somebody does sausage, or somebody does ribs, or somebody does smoked turkey, the protein is the only thing changing. All of this stays the same. So that's our Q factor. You can add up that Q factor one time, and then just simply add it to every single recipe as a line item cost. That way you don't have to do sausage, bread, starch, vegetable, dinner salad, salad dressing, butter, condiments, brisket, all those things, ribs, all those things. Do all those things once, and then just add it as a line item to your recipe. So that way you know how much to charge for your brisket plate, how much to charge for your sausage plate, okay, based on the protein. That's the only thing that's changing. So that Q factor primarily means when things are primarily similar or the same within a plate. So that's usually when you see Q factors, when something is served as a plate, and all of these ingredients are the same no matter what protein you order. It's just a way to simplify that.
So would that be, could you include the cutlery into that as well, like for to-go orders?
Yeah, absolutely. So, or if you're like a catering company and you use plastic cutlery, like on a barbecue plate, and everybody's gonna get one of those little like packages of plastic cutlery, put it on there. That's a Q factor. It's part of the cost of the plate. Absolutely. Good question. Any comments, questions, concerns about Q factor? No? Okay. So that's the majority of this particular one. I went ahead and broke this PowerPoint into 2 different sections.